this workshop, the mayor and board of commissioners. Ms. Sonia, can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Lovingood,
Here.
Commissioner Mosier,
I'm here, and my alarm for 5:01 this morning just went off at 5:01 p.m. I do apologize, but I am here.
good.
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Here.
Commissioner Martin, Commissioner Stutz.
Full house tonight, thank you. We have, no one is registered for the public comment period. So in our workshop discussion, our tree board has established a policy for when people want to donate trees in honor of someone. We can review that, and it is on the March agenda for the adoption if we're ready. We would also need to add that a fee to our citywide schedule of fees if we adopt this policy. Is there any questions on that policy?
I'll kind of summarize it. It's the second page of your packet, but basically they've been doing this, letting people do memorial trees for someone. This specifically says it's in green spaces and public parks operated by the city, that if they pay $300, the tree board purchases the tree, which is a natural occurring tree in Tennessee, and they place it. So that includes the city, installing the tree, most likely Eric or someone from the Parks and Recreation Department. And that $300 covers that. If the tree dies within the first year, the tree board will replace it. After that, the donor would have to replace it again. And if there's any vandalism done to the plaque or anything like that, that's the responsibility of the donor to take care of. The city's not assuming responsibility for any vandalism. But that's kind of the gist of it. They worked on this for quite a while, several months, several meetings in a row, and this is kind of what they've come to. So we do need to approve that tree to make it actually go in effect, and that also means that there's a cost associated with it, that we would have to add it to our schedule of fees, which we can do at the meeting after we approve it, or in the same meeting, whatever y'all think is right for that.
Any discussion on that?
Just one more question. The creation of this process, was it because we were getting too many, or was it just to cover our bases, or?
I think the office has had a couple of requests about it. I think it's appropriate that the tree board be the one to kind of manage this. So I think they just kind of took it on. We've gotten a couple of requests for it. They've actually already planted 3 or 4 memorial trees. Sometimes it's like a class reunion that wants to plant one in honor of their class or something. Often it's been someone that's passed away that they wanted to have a memorial tree for. But I think this was going to make sure that someone was consulting with Eric, who has to plant and maintain the tree. He's on the tree board, so we want to make sure that he's aware of it before someone agrees, yeah, we can take your memorial tree. So I think that's kind of where it came about.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. The Parks and Rec Commission met this month, and the commission approved and recommended tour board updates to the rules and regulations. And I'll let Jessica review the change. And if Eddie or Commissioner Richardson want to add anything, please feel free.
So there's about 5 pages following that tree board policy that is the Parks and Recreation rules and regulations. These have been adopted for decades. Before I was here, we had Parks and Recreation rules. They've been amended a couple of times through the years. It's been a while since we had an amendment on it. The things that are highlighted are the ones that are changes. So basically, we used to have no parking areas spelled out in the Parks and Recreation rules and regulations. Like we said, in front of the office, you can't park between certain hours, blah, blah, blah. Instead of having it that specific, we changed the rule to say that no parking areas are determined by the Parks Director, and then he needs to mark them as no parking. That's not something that needs to come back to the Parks and Recreation Commission every time they make a decision about whether to stripe something as no parking. Also, the Parks and Rec Commissioner or Director may close the parks at their discretion due to emergency situations, safety concerns, and weather-related incidents. Alan may want to talk more about that. They did make some decisions back in January when we had some weather-related incidents to close the parks. That is primarily not to keep people out who want to sled. That's fine if they want to walk in and sled. It's to keep vehicles off of our very expensive fields, because people like to go in the Parks and Rec complex and do donuts on the soccer field and the football field and places like that. So we don't want people's vehicles inside the park. If they want to park outside the park and walk in and sled, they can still do that. A speed limit of 5 miles an hour. We've actually already purchased signs and put those up for that. But if they're inside the complex or one of the parks, that's the speed limit. And that's so if we adopted in these rules and regulations, it's my understanding that it then becomes part of the enforceable ordinance. So like people could write tickets for it, or if we needed to enforce it, we could. On this, yeah, they will. On the second page, Locks and key codes are gonna be placed and maintained only by the parks director, so we're no longer gonna let the leagues have their own set of keys that nobody else has access to, because we have insurance inspections and things like that, and it's not good if we can't get into our own city-owned buildings because the leagues are the only one with the keys. So those are gonna be maintained by parks director from now on. And the leagues are responsible for picking up their own litter after games or tournaments. If it's some big event, like an opening day or a tournament or something, we always have staff there anyway to help with that. But this way, if the league is responsible to have parents help clean up and stuff afterwards, it means our guys are there for 1 hour and we're paying overtime or comp time for 1 hour, not 5 hours picking up the football stadium. So those were the changes, and Alan and Eddie were both in that meeting and leading that meeting, so I don't know if they have anything else to add to that or if anybody has any questions about it.
I just see what the city attorney's thought is. The part of this that says that a violation of these rules is a misdemeanor.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, the most we could do would be give them a ticket,
it's,
isn't
yeah,
it?
a cite of $50 fine.
City
as long as
court.
it's City court.
Okay. Right.
I don't, all of our ordinances that are punishable by $50 are misdemeanors, but misdemeanors will often used to describe the state statutes.
Yeah.
Should we
If we
say
want
it's
to
just a
change it,
violation of city code instead, you think?
No, I'm okay if Mr. Cleveland is. I don't want us taking out warrants on anybody for violating
Yeah, it would be more.
recreation
accurate-
code.
Be more accurate to change it.
Okay, so how it should read is the violation of any published rule or regulation of the commission shall be punishable as a violation of city code?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
There, that's fine. That brings up another little problem I'll talk to you later. I think Mr. Stutz brought it to my attention many months ago and we just haven't corrected it yet.
Do you see any other changes?
So let me just ask a question. So if somebody goes in there, let's just say they go in there and do donuts on the soccer field, and they tear it up, just tear it up. So the only thing we can do is cite them to city court and give them a $50 fine.
I was fixing
What
to
do
say,
I
can we
do
not
now?
charge them with vandalism?
We do charge for vandalism if there's like an obvious case of vandalism, we have to charge
Well,
for that, and then
and
they have to pay restitution.
And if it's not something that requires a third-party landscaper or something to correct it, then we'll do our own work order. Have,
They pay for it.
yeah, and then we'll charge it as they'll either reimburse us or it'll be charged as a levy against their tax bill. Whenever they get their next bill, there'll be a special assessment on there.
What if they're not a city resident, though, or they don't, or not? What would happen then in that case?
Well, it just makes it a little more difficult.
Okay.
Like I say, we don't have to, just because it's if it's a violation of state statute like vandalism, and it's a violation of our ordinance, we just need to be careful that we don't charge them with the ordinance and let them get by with paying $50.
Yeah.
Because if we do, then it's raised, double jeopardy is going to attach and they will have to go, we can't do it again. But we just need to make sure we charge them in general sessions court under the statute.
Well, and like if you had somebody intoxicated driving through there, you'd obviously charge them with DUI,
Oh,
not
yeah.
don't have alcohol in the park.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then we've also got that ordinance we adopted about a code of conduct,
right.
which all those things apply to, so,
That still just gets us the $50.
yes.
Well, maybe we need to up that. Okay, they're not, okay. Oh, well, I'll try. Any other anybody else with Parks and Rec? Thank you all. We have purchased the SUV electrical warehouse downtown using the federal COVID funds in 2024. I'm going to have Jessica review the status of the community center project and the grant allocated and the associated grant.
Okay, so you all remember last summer, We had drawings done to satisfy the requirements for the CDBG funding and for the Connected Community Facilities funding, which is a federal grant through the broadband program, which started during COVID money. Yeah. So we had 2 grants that could be used to build the community center. Last summer, we realized during environmental that one little 2-foot corner of that building, that community center building, is inside the flood way. So CDBG balked on that, and it was going to be a whole lot of work to use CDBG money on that property. CDBG then allowed us to move that money to the pool project instead, which is great. It means we're not losing any of that CDBG money. We definitely had plenty of money to spend on the pool project. So we're going to be able to utilize that at the Parks and Rec complex. So that leaves only one remaining grant on the community center. It's for $667,000. It's a broadband grant. The scope of that grant says that we must build at least one wing that has a public meeting room that people can use to have assemblies or to do telehealth visits. So basically the room has to have a door that can close and be a private room if it needs to be. So to use that $667,000, we have to have that one wing completed. The deadline for this grant is October 31st, 2026. It is February, and we have not yet been given permission to bid this out. So I met Sam and his staff and me, met virtually with our contact at that program and asked if there was a chance for extension. She was going to talk to someone, get back with us. Last week, her boss, the director of the broadband program, came to Sweetwater and visited the property, and I kind of talked her through the history of it. And the state has basically all but approved the design, so we've gotten to that part. When I told her that we had to have a wing built by the end of October in order to keep this money, she said she's not worried about it, that she thinks that we can still get to that point. And she did also say that she thought she could get us a 60-day extension on top of that, so that was good news. But I don't feel comfortable moving forward with this until I am certain that all of you all are on board with this. So here's the dilemma. We don't have to do anything extra for the CCF grant to use that funding. It's not like CDBG where you're having to do all this extra environmental and stuff, whereas if you didn't have the grant, you wouldn't do those steps. The steps moving forward to build the community center are the same whether we're using the CCF grant money or not. We're still going to be doing the same steps. The question is, if we get to October 31st, or even December 31st, if she manages to get us an extension, which she said we should not try and apply for that extension until like June. We need to see where we were in June and then try and apply for that extension if we could. If we get to that point and we have not got that wing built, they could make us repay the $667,000 to the grant money. So that's what I need you all to be thinking about is, are we going to do this project anyway? So we're going to start it and move forward with it. And again, this is something that all along we have said we were borrowing money for. This is not something we're paying for out of fund balance because the total cost is probably going to be $6 or $7 million. It's a big project. We're not just paying cash for this. Are we going to go ahead and move forward with that and hope that we get to spend $667,000 of the grant money, knowing that we might be taking a chance that if we don't get far enough along in this grant, they're not going to let us have that money. And I'm also fine with us not asking for reimbursement for any of it until we know that we're far enough along in it. So there's not a repayment issue, but it may be a we don't get to use that funding issue. Does that make sense what I'm asking? Okay, Sam, you've been more involved with this than anyone, so I'm sure you probably have things to add. You might want to tell them about the code update.
The only thing that I would add to everything that Jessica has stated is we have sent the information in for the CCF. They have approved our drawings. They have requested changes to our specifications. We have those changes made, and we are awaiting their final approval. Okay? As soon as we get their final approval, the only thing that we have to do is send the drawing set to the state and advertise for bid. So within 30 days, they should had reviewed our specifications and given us approval to go to the state fire marshal. Let's just say 30 days, we're at the end of March, we're April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So Sweetwater math, that's 8 to 9 months that we've got of construction period, okay? I told Jessica that based on the way the building is designed, we could let the project out to bid and ask for it to be constructed in that manner, in that wing that would meet the qualifications of this grant. That section be built first. That would be our approach, our suggestion, our request. If we're moving forward with the project anyway, we set up the bid documents with the contractors to get this in. If they know that going in and they're bidding on this, they'll just set up their construction schedule to meet that particular schedule. More stringent requirements in a construction, in a bid project, have happened before. Let's just say, I think the end of the day, and what Jessica truly wants clarification is, are we going forward with the project or not? I think the optimist to a fault in me, I think we can set it up, we can construct it, we can get a CO, we do it by the December date. October is going to be hard, but with the 2 additional months that we've been told we have, I think we can make this happen.
Could you not bid it, that part out as a phase? We had talked about phasing this thing at one point in time to utilize this money and not lose it. Why not do that as a phase to get that area usable? And then, you know, at that point in time, you're not concentrating on the rest of it. We're looking at using this $600-something thousand and not losing it. In that phase, to get that part that would satisfy this grant up and going and usable, I mean, that.
Basically, what you stated is an approach that we can set up within our documents as we advertise. We can, and what we can do is we can set this up as this phase 1 is basically an add alternate or a deduct alternate. That way you've got that portion bid and specific monies that go to that part. That way, if it stopped after that, you would know the exact cost of that wing.
And
Is that what you're?
Yeah, kind of, that's what I'm saying, you know, just to get to a point of using this money, because at that point in time, you know, $6 or $7 million, that's, you know, for that project is probably reasonable this day and time. But who's to say we don't get that part done, and then at some point we can secure further grant money to work on the next phase and help out instead of incurring all the debt that would come from just doing it all at once.
So in summary, to answer your question is yes. We can set up the bid documents stating that that's phase 1, that must be up, operational, and open, and then the rest of it is completed after that.
Yeah, I mean,
but in getting the bids, we would have the opportunity to say, we accept, let's just say, we accept phase 1, but we don't accept phases 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
If we didn't want to.
And then we get to a point where, you know, if there's other grant money or something that comes up, we could say, all right, now we're going to entertain phases 2 and 3, or whatever the case may be. You know, if it's a project that may not be done, just a turnkey type thing, it may be something that has to be done over a period of time.
But I guess my additional clarifying question based on what you're saying is, are you only wanting to proceed with that phase 1, or Worst case scenario, if it comes back and the total bids are $8 million, are you only wanting to proceed with phase one? I think I'm reading too much into it, but.
No, not really, and I'll give you kind of my thought process is there, there's so many other things that the city has on the table that we need to look at doing and things like that. I just don't want to get the city to get into a financial situation where these other things are not possible to take care of. To me, that are more pressing, and we'll talk about some of that here in just a little bit when we talk about the CIP. To me, they are more pressing than a complete $7 or $8 million community center. I'm all for the project, let me just make that clear. But I'm also all for other things that, to me, are more important getting done now than completing a $7 or $8 million project. But as far as this money and whatever it takes to get phase one done, so to speak, so we can get this money from the state, I'm 100% in support of that.
I'll tag along with what Alan said. It makes me a little nervous to say tonight that I want to do the whole thing. With the way what the project's going to cost, the other things that are coming that we're going to have to be paying for. That makes me nervous for tonight to say that. But I do see that we do need to use that grant money because if we turn that grant money in, there's probably very likely that we wouldn't get grants from that same organization. Is that correct?
This is the only grant we've ever had from the broadband source. That's my first time doing it. I do think there's an opportunity for further money from them down the road, but I don't think that particular grant pot would give us another grant for this same project. Most of the broadband money are going to projects like running infrastructure to places that don't currently have internet. So very few of them were like community center projects. So I don't know that it would ruin anything going forward with this particular grant organization. I will say the state and the federal government very much want us to spend this money. They do not want us to return it. They're not trying to look for reasons to get it back. They don't want us to sacrifice. They want us to spend this money and complete this project.
Sam, is it realistic just to do that phase with that grant money with the $667,000?
Realistic is a relative term. Yes, it is possible. Does it really make sense to do it just to get the money?
Right.
If you throw in just to get the money, yes. But I think the bigger aspect and the bigger draw is if that particular project is a complete project, because people are not going to come to that one room just to use it for telehealth. And that particular room would rarely be used just as that one room. We're only building that room to meet the requirement of the grant so that we can use that on that wing. I think the best and safest route is obviously let us finish the documents based on the grant requirement. Let us put it out to bid. Let us break it into these components. And then once we've broken it into those components and we have the number, then having an actual number versus is it 6 or is it 8 makes everyone feel a little bit better.
If you do it as an alternate, can they bid only the phase though? Like, will they break that out and say,
Yes.
regardless of whether we get
Yes.
the whole project,
Yes.
just for this phase,
Yes.
I can bid this? Okay.
So basically on our bid form, it could look something like this. The total project is a line item, and then it's easier to do a deduct. Phase 1 would be deduct 1. Phase 2, it would, you finish out the gym, and then phase 3 is the opposite wing.
Yeah, and
we could-
that's
we could
what I was
totally-
kinda taught, wasn't meant to be misunderstood, I just wanna do this one room in that huge building to satisfy the grant. Because we had talked before about it being in 3 phases, I think. You know, the first phase concerning the main building that's there now,
Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong. And the other 2 phases being the add-ons, am I
Yeah.
correct in
And
remembering
I
that?
think when we originally talked about it, it was kind of in reverse the way it would be finished out, but that's when we had the
Yeah.
whole pot of money.
Yeah.
But I think, like I say, in summary, moving forward, setting it up with the deduct alternates, setting it up with the phasing, setting up with the separation, at least we know the cost of those. And then we also have the feedback from the contractors who actually have to pull this off. That says, yes, I can meet this schedule at this cost.
I mean, I'm not against even borrowing what we need to do the first phase, within reason. To me, $7 or $8 million is a huge undertaking right now with other things that we're looking at. I mean,
Well, that's the other thing. The reason I wanted to bring it up in this meeting is, as of right this second, we've not spent the first penny of this grant funding. We've gone through all the requirements that we're supposed to do up to this point, but we've not actually written a check for anything. We're not hoping to be reimbursed. We've paid for all the engineering out of fund balance. We're out of budget. This is not something we've either borrowed for or used any of the grant money. So if we were gonna say, never mind, we're not doing this project, now's the time to do that. Because we haven't spent any of the grant money yet, so they can't tell us we don't want anything back. We can just give it up and give it back. This is an unusually short term for a grant. It's only 2 years from the very start of it. So it takes 6 months to get through the paperwork and the contract phase and hiring a consultant, doing all that stuff. So they knew going in it was going to be a hard push to get all these cities to get this grant done in 2 years. So I kind of wonder if they won't give extensions. I was very relieved to hear about the 60-day extension. They kind of act like that's it. That's the most we're going to get. So before we move forward and spend the first penny on anything, I wanted you all to say, yes, we're still doing this project in some form or fashion.
let me ask another question. Don't even slight that. I know that Sammy's my wife. I'm married to.
I love
We had
questions.
mentioned the long-term plan for the Biggs house, as far as being a center that could be used for Wi-Fi, things like that. Transfer again, maybe, I'm not, and because $660-something thousand to do a lot for the Biggs house.
I know, but if we spent $667,000 on the big house, I don't think I can sleep at night. I mean, it's a very good question, Alan. We do have $120,000 of money, of grant money, specifically for the Biggs house already. So,
I mean, I don't even know that it could be done by the end of October or December with everything that needs to be
I
done.
mean, we're in the same problem with that. It
I
would be,
mean, so,
we've already got all the drawing and the engineering and everything like that done on the
Yeah.
community center.
yeah.
So that's the. Really what I need to know tonight is, you want us to move forward with submitting the drawings to the fire marshal's office, with drafting bid specs. We don't have to accept a bid. You still technically have next month to decide, okay, we're going forward with phase 1, or we're going forward with all of it, and we need to get numbers on borrowing money, because I really can't, I can get a guesstimate about what kind of principal and interest and stuff it would be based on, but I don't know that for sure until we get a bid, until we know what the bid
Is
is.
phase 1 going to get us restrooms in there?
No.
Well,
It's a really good question, Brad.
here's,
Can we have that room open and occupied without a restaurant? Technically, there is a restroom in there right this
Yes.
second. Would I let anybody use it? No.
I mean, the one thing that we could do, and we're looking at the plan, the restrooms are located literally on the other side of the existing wall. I think it would make sense to go ahead and finish that out. Because we would have to check that box and have a restroom, so.
Yes, we could go ahead with the, oh, by the way, the other wrench, because nothing is ever easy. between the time we drew these drawings and then made the decision to transfer the CDBG money to the pool and finish the drawings and submit it to the state fire marshal's office changed the year for the codes. So now we have to update the codes to be the next set of year up, which has more seismic stuff and things like that. So,
I mean,
Sam shrugging like that's not a big deal, but also that's
like I say, we've had to do it on several other projects, and we've got that covered. But I think at the end of the day, putting it out, finishing the drawings, putting it out for bid, updating to 2021, I think that's the best case scenario, because for us to make good, hard decisions, we need good, hard numbers, and we need contractors to tell us if this is even doable.
I
And
mean, I think it's a no-brainer to send it out to bid because we agreed to do the project. And I think we all are excited about the project. You know, it's just how we get to the end of the project that is a concern of mine. But, you know, if we see all that in front of us and see what these contractors can do, you know, can it be broke down into them, phase 1, 2, and 3? Here's what we've got. Throw us what throw us your numbers and let us look at it and go from there.
yes is the short answer.
That's all I need. It's been a long one.
Yeah, I know. But having real data, feedback, and numbers, I think will help tremendously.
I think so.
what I really need to know is there anybody that's like, no, this is a hard stop, we're not gonna go any further on this, we don't wanna spend this grant money, give it back? Or is everybody, let's bid it and figure out where we're at?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, we have the grant money. We need to spend it out.
I think we at least exhaust our efforts in trying to figure out a way to use it.
I think so. When could it, so we can't even bid this yet though?
We're waiting on approval on the broadband final check or release of we sent it in, they sent us comments, we've got those comments picked up, and we've sent them back, but we haven't been given, you're good to release yet.
Our visit with, both of them are named Taylor, but our visit with both Taylors was very good and very productive. They were very impressed with Sweetwater, and, you know, I think that was a good thing too. So I think she will quickly turn around that. I will be surprised. In fact, if you haven't heard from her by Friday on the comments, let me know, because she gave me a personal cell phone number, so I will text her and be like, will you please look at these amendments?
Will do.
Any other comments on that? Now, Jessica, you want to go over your monthly update?
Okay. This is the last week to pay property taxes, so it's a busy week in the office. The girls have basically banned me to my office because every time I receipt anything, I do it wrong now. So I stay away from the front and let them handle all that stuff. But it's a busy week up there. The pool project is moving along. We got the notice to proceed issued last week, and they started last Tuesday, I think. So Eddie might talk a little bit about that in his update, but it's going well. We've also advertised for lifeguards, so we're in the process of hiring a pool manager and lifeguards for this summer because we plan on having the pool open. We received an email requesting to buy the land that we own out on Highway 68, which is where that billboard sits that's right next to Huddle House. I told her I didn't think we were interested in selling that property, but I thought I'd better, just run it by you all if anybody had a different opinion on that. We are updating the design to showcase the new Blooms Bluegrass and Barbecue festival dates for September. It currently still has the 150th celebration still, so we should have that updated sometime next month. If anybody feels strongly we should find out what kind of price she's looking at, let me know, and I'll email her back. Right, since the last meeting, we've done a couple of grant applications. The first one is the agriculture grant for farmers market at the Main Street Marketplace. There's a pool of money that's specifically for the 250th celebration, America's 250th, so that we've applied for an ag grant for that to try and do some more enhancements. We are hosting the farmers market March through November. And we'll be putting some money in the budget for that. Last year I took it out of my intern line. I think we're gonna move it to the Main Street budget and show it probably a little more accurately out of the Main Street budget. It costs a couple $1,000s a year to run that farmer's market, so I applied for grant funding for like tents and advertising and things like that. Also, I think the fire department is in the process of applying for a grant, so John will probably talk about that in his update. The cybersecurity grant that Landon Purdy got us for the generator for City Hall, it is gas metered. So the contractor, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, they have worked with the utility board, coordinated with them to get that gas meter ordered and everything they need for that. They're supposed to come pour the concrete pad next week, and the generator will be located kind of near where this tree is. I did ask them to please make sure they don't damage the tree because it's a great tree. So there'll be a concrete pad back here. It is a Generac generator. I told them it needs to be really easy to operate, so I think it just automatically kicks on if the power goes off. I don't think I have to flip a switch or anything. I think it just takes care of it. So they're supposed to be installing that probably by March 19th if the meter gets set before then. In your packet, I put a copy of our county tourism director's report for the month, because she kind of talked a little bit about the tourism award and the short film project that Sweetwater did. This was cool. Mayor Kyle got to come with us up to the Metis annual awards ceremony and legislative luncheon, and we won the best marketing and public relations campaign. And just to reiterate, I'm super proud of Haley for this, for submitting our project. It was for the short film, which was crowdfunded, and I have a lot of data on that because I made it my capstone project for my certified public manager classes. If anybody's interested in seeing any of that data and the impact and how many people came and saw it, how many people have viewed the film, we have all of that. But Metis gave us that grant, and you know, the people we're competing against for that grant are Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and Sevierville and Visit Knoxville, who are very large budgeted tourism organizations with professional tourism staff that are submitting for these awards every year. And Sweetwater, Tennessee won Best Marketing and Public Relations Award this year, so.
Very proud of that.
So it was a good, and also Commissioner Ezel was there to talk. He is a great commissioner. They call him the Energizer Bunny. He is very enthusiastic about tourism. He's a really great speaker. So it was good to get to hear him and hear all the different things that Tennessee's doing for tourism. It's definitely something that Tennessee does well. So it was a pleasure to get to do that. We have numbers on our Sweetheart Stroll, which this year was February 13th. It was a Friday night. The Main Street Board voted to do it on Friday night the 13th instead of Saturday the 14th. The 13th saw an increase of 4% up over last year on the 13th, which kind of makes sense because we didn't have an event. But the 14th also saw a 3% increase over Valentine's Day last year. And last year we really pushed the short film and did a Falling for Sweetwater campaign and paid a little bit. We boosted our posts. We paid about $500 in advertising. This year we didn't pay anything for advertising and still had a good little bump there, so we were excited to see that. We also have our next event, March 6th and 7th downtown. It's Once Upon a Small Town reading event. A Cozy Girls chapter is what it's called. I am so in love with this event already because I'm a reader, and this is going to be really cool. We have the Madisonville bookstore, the Story Hollow. They're going to do a pop-up shop in the train car in downtown Sweetwater. And we're going to have a pop-up book club, and you can bedazzle a book at the coffee shop, and you can do crafts at Noble Curiosities, and there's going to be a little book quote scavenger hunt that everybody can participate in, and they turn in their little card and they get a bookmark and a sticker from it. So that's going to be a fun little event in March.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a shop that's in Madisonville, she's selling stuff here in Sweetwater. So does she collect the sales tax and turn it in from the city of Madisonville?
For those 2 days, her sales tax is still going to go to Madisonville. Yes, the books that she sells are going to go to Madisonville. Now, we hope that we have enough people coming into town that it offsets it, and we still see a boost in our sales tax too. Also, my ultimate goal in this is to have a bookstore in downtown Sweetwater, whether that's something that's as part of another business, like a coffee shop and a bookstore or something like that. But that is a gap that we have, and it's shown up multiple times on our Main Street gap. So maybe I can convince Story Hollow to do a second location in Sweetwater, or maybe we can attract another bookstore because we end up having a really successful book event. So ultimately, I hope to get a bookstore as some kind of component in downtown. I do think there's one now inside Noble Curiosities, a bookstore in there renting a booth. So we hope that this is good for them too. They're going to participate. We're going to kind of showcase them and stuff too. But yeah, good question.
Until you get a bookstore, they can just go to the library.
That's right. The library is also going to partner with us during that event. I'm glad you said that because they're going to We have the Imagination Library gonna put some information out, and then the library's gonna do their 1,000 books before kindergarten program, and the Friends of the Library, we're gonna send out a donation jar and everything like that, so hopefully we'll have some good times for that. It's a whole thing though. I hate to say this is dumb. Reading has always been popular for me, but it's becoming more mainstream. Since COVID, like bookstores and stuff have started to go up. They're adding more Barnes and Nobles, which they have not done in years. So, I mean, it's an interesting trend right now, so we're trying to jump in on that. And nobody else is doing anything like this around here, so. TDOT, we have 3 grants with TDOT right now. The STP Surface Transportation Funds, those were for the Hawkins and Linwood Road project. We finally got our closure letter on that, and I included it in your packet. So that one is closed and done and paid back, and they've paid us and everything's closed on it. We still have the multimodal grant, which is a sidewalk grant going south on Main Street, and a TAP grant, which is for design only going north on Main Street for the sidewalk. After going through the process of the multimodal grant, I would say on the TAP grant, we would be much better off to accept their design and then let David's crew build the sidewalk going north on Highway 11, according to the design. Because having to do it through TDOT is an absolute nightmare and will cost us 10 times as much than if David's sidewalk crew just builds the sidewalk. We did need them to do the design because there are some challenging elements like the creek and the topography over there. So it'll be good to have that design done. But I would say for the actual construction phase of that, we should look at maybe just doing it in-house instead of applying for another TAP grant. On the multimodal grant, we've received another delay on that. They have asked us to acquire wider right-of-way. So our initial plan was to do 10 feet of right-of-way down along, in addition to what TDOT's right-of-way already is on Highway 11. They want another 10 feet added because they've changed their specs since the time we signed a grant contract. So we now have to acquire more right-of-way, which means we had to have the engineers redesign 10 more feet on each side. So that has not been done and submitted back to TDOT. That one expires in January. I don't know if we'll make it to construction by the time, because usually right-of-way is a 6-month process with TDOT. So that one, it's not a federal grant. It's they have some federal funds funneling through, but it's state controlled. So if we have to get an extension on that one, I feel like that's a lot more likely, and I'm not really that worried about that. But the good thing about the multimodal grant is it's only a 5% match. So we are getting a sidewalk, for only 5%. It's still way more than what 5% would be if David was building it, but 5% with TDOT is still not terrible. So that's kind of the status on those 3. The next one is House Bill 2017 and Senate Bill 2028. This is a pending legislation that is near and dear to Sweetwater, Tennessee, because we were the guinea pig for it. This says, this proposed legislation from Adam Lowe and Mark Cochran preempts local ordinances related to the discharge of firearms. So y'all may recall we had a city ordinance that says you cannot fire firearms inside the city limits. It's a long-standing city ordinance around. John Cleveland's done a lot of research on this, so probably 180 other cities regulate this in some way.
245 cities regulated, 180 cities like we do totally mandated.
Okay. This bill, if it passes, would say the cities can no longer regulate that. Only the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency can control hunting in any way. This bill, the way it's written, you cannot, I put a TML summary in here because TML does the best job of summarizing it that I've seen. They point out that this bill says it doesn't prohibit hunting at any distance from schools, churches, businesses, parks, or any other place the public may gather. So, if they own private property right up against a city park, like they do behind Brown Intermediate School, they could sit there and fire shotguns all day long. Also, keep in mind, this doesn't regulate what kind of weapon it is. If they want to use a high-powered rifle to shoot deer instead of ducks, then I guess if this bill passes, they'll be able to do that also, and there'll be nothing the city can do to stop it. The good news is TML is opposing it, but they are urging us to contact our senator and our representatives. I did invite Mark Cochran to come here in person, and myself and Chief Byram and Assistant Chief Watson and Lowell Russell all came and looked at the property that is a good example right here in the middle of Sweetwater that is 156 feet from Sweetwater High School's parking lot where these guys are duck hunting. Cochran did come. He was very receptive to our points. Assistant Chief Watson has been particularly passionate about this and has emailed every senator in the state of Tennessee to tell them about this. He's gotten one really smart aleck reply back, and he's gotten some other really good replies back. So I do think there's some progress being made here. I really think their goal was to sneak this through and hopefully no cities would know about it. I did tell all the cities at the East Tennessee City Managers meeting a couple weeks ago about this. Chief Byram also reached out to the MTAS police consultant to make sure he was telling the other police agencies and the Chiefs Association about that. And John Cleveland went to Nashville and testified about this in the House committee 2 weeks ago. It is online. You can watch. I sat and watched every bit of it, and he did an excellent job. And I'm proud that you brought this to people's attention that probably didn't know anything about it. And TML is going to oppose this. So here's hoping that that carries enough weight that it can stop it. And they don't want to give amendments. They don't want to say, well, we'll do distance requirements, because every city is different. It would be almost impossible to come up with one ordinance that could work in every city or county in the state of Tennessee. So I wanted to make sure you all were aware of that. My next question was, do you want me to send a hyperreach notification out, particularly to maybe Willow Creek, who is the one who call 911 each time they go out there and hunt, and just make sure they know that they have the option to contact their state representatives and senators?
Yes. Definitely.
Okay, we can send a text alert out on just those addresses.
So did Cochran submit this?
Yes.
He co-sponsored the bill.
You sponsored it in the House. And of course, there's a senator who sponsored the identical bill in the Senate. And because they're identical, both the House and the Senate pass it, then it's done. The House, since they, both of these are in the agriculture committees, which you need some idea how this was headed, managed to start with. It should have been in the city and county subcommittee of the urban committee. But after they had their hearing, they've rolled it twice since then in the full committee in the House, which means they just continued it. They're just tabling it. They're not taking it up. Sometimes they do that for strategic reasons. They look out in the audience and there's 20 city managers there that are against it, and instead of face them, they just roll it to the next week. Well, people can't be showing up every single week when they do that, and they rolled it twice. On the other hand, they sometimes roll it when they think it's not going to pass, because they want to keep lobbying for it, the same as we want to keep lobbying against it. The Senate hearing is coming up this Wednesday, and I'm not sure what will happen with that. I got a telephone call today requesting every document and piece of information I have about it from a law firm, private law firm in Nashville that represents 10 different fairly large cities in the state that are city manager form of government. And they're fighting it really hard. But they tried to put this thing sort of fast-tracked, and they've really just gotten started. So I don't know, three of the senators on the House, on the Senate Agriculture Committee, which doesn't have a subcommittee, three of those senators are from 3 of the 10 cities that this law firm, private law firm, and of course TML is lobbying, and you heard Jessica report about police chiefs and everybody else that's trying to get involved.
They're relying on the Tennessee as a right to hunt state. So you have the right to hunt in Tennessee. It's in the Tennessee Constitution, and they're right about that. But they're also kind of being misleading in saying that they're clarifying a law that was passed in 2017. The reason we've won in city court and then won our appeal in circuit court was because the law doesn't say that cities cannot regulate the use of firearms inside their city limits, the discharge of firearms. So
since 2014, the law the statute expressly, and they use that word, the statute expressly authorizes cities to regulate the discharge of firearms unless there is some other state law that expressly, and they use that word again twice in that same little section, expressly prohibits it. And there is no such law. And yet I go over I hear from hunters and Tennessee Wildlife Federation, which is who's behind all of this. They were here from the very beginning, sitting in the back of this very room when we had our city court hearing, and they showed up at circuit court, and they showed up in Nashville. But they just want to hunt wherever they want to hunt. I believe it's Article 2, Section 29 of our Tennessee Constitution that was adopted not too long ago, that it's called the right to hunt. But they completely ignore the last sentence clause of that says, subject to regulation by the General Assembly.
And some cities are like us and they ban it outright. Some of them say you have to be 600 feet from a park or a school or a building. The way Tennessee Wildlife Federation would enforce it is you have to be...
Oh, they can shoot anywhere.
But there is something about from a residence. What is it?
TWRA regulation says you have to be 100 yards from an occupied dwelling. But the Attorney General opined, I believe it was in 2010, that doesn't apply to private property.
So you can have private
So
property
really
that backs right up against a school or backs right up against a church or backs right up against commercial property or Main Street or the city garage, and they can shoot as much as they want. So anyway, we're opposing this, TML's opposing this, we're hoping that makes enough racket that the elected officials at the state level do not pass this, but we need to make sure people know about it too. They need to hear from people.
Yeah, I'd like to go on record as saying that I think that, Mr. Lowe and Mr. Cochran, they certainly, you can do this kind of legislation, but it's not the right thing to do. I mean, this is just absolutely backdoor legislation. That is an egregious attempt at lawmaking.
Well, and certainly, I let both of them know how I feel, but you all are absolutely free to pass on your opinions to them also. I think the more people they hear from, the better off they are. And I do appreciate that Representative Cochran was willing to come here and meet and look at the property and listen to what we had to say. So certainly Senator Lowe is not willing to do that, given his response to Assistant Chief Watson's email.
Well, of course, he lives in Bradley County, and he's not our senator.
So, moving on, TCRS hazardous duty supplement option, and this affects police and fire. So, Commissioner Levingood and Commissioner Stetz have both been involved in these meetings also. I've scheduled for Justin Ball, our TCRS representative, to come to our March workshop. So we'll be talking about this again in March. We don't have to make any decisions tonight, but we wanted to introduce this tonight so you all would know what we were looking at. If you'll look in your packet, this is what the page looks like. It says City of Sweetwater at the top, estimated cost for hazardous duty supplement. So what this is the state of Tennessee has provided 3 special provisions for people who are in public safety occupations, and they define that as police, fire, and EMTs. EMS, I guess, would be the right way to say that. So we, of course, only have police and fire at this point. So that's the only people in the city that this would affect is police and fire employees. Basically, you can pay an amount up front to where those employees receive a higher benefit on their retirement package when they retire. Basically, it amounts to a higher monthly payout from the pension plan because of being police and fire. The state feels like this is appropriate. They offered 3 options. We looked at all 3 options. The other 2 options, one's only available if you pick option 1. Option 1 requires that you force your people to retire at age 60. That's why we didn't like option 1. So option 3 is what this one is, hazardous duty. It has only been introduced and approved by the legislature last January, I think is when it went into effect. There's not been a city adopt this yet, but there are several that are considering it right now. I think that Maryville ended up going with option 1 and the 7-year upgrade instead of this one when I talked to him last week. But hazardous duty means that for 7 years prior to Social Security kicking in, those police and firemen get an enhanced benefit. For most of our officers on an average salary, that would calculate out to somewhere around $500 a month extra. So it's a significant enough amount that I don't think we could do this privately and come up with that amount. We need the bulk of TCRS to be on that. What it would cost us is an upfront amount of around $250,000. We can pay that in a lump sum, we can amortize it over a year, or we can amortize it over a 10-year period. I would not recommend amortizing it over a 10-year period. And if you're gonna do it for a year, you may as well just pay the lump sum cost up front. And then each year after that, on the payroll for police and fire only, it would increase the retirement rate by 0.39%. So if I'm using current year numbers, that's around $9,000 or $10,000 a year. So the cost is $250,000 up front plus $9,000 or $10,000 a year, and it means that everyone that retires from police and fire with at least 30 years of service, 20.
You gotta have 20 years of service.
20 years of service.
In the emergency services to be able to qualify for it.
Gets
Then
the
you can
enhanced
draw it.
benefit.
Yeah, then you can start drawing it at 25, wouldn't it, Jim? At a reduced rate, but then 30 gets you full amount.
So it is rewarding those who stay a long time. You don't have as many of those as you probably used to, because most people don't stay in public safety that long. We do have a few, but the reason I like the hazardous duty supplement option is because it's not requiring anyone to retire at age 60. If they're still healthy and they're capable of doing the job, they don't have to retire. They can keep working. Now, this incentivizes them to retire at 60 because that's when they can start drawing their pay at the enhanced benefit. So it does probably help you keep your healthier people on the payroll and allow your people who are starting to experience, a little bit of a decline to move on. So that's kind of the gist and the overview. I don't know if either of our commissioners have anything they want to add to that, or if either of the chiefs have anything they want to say. And again, Justin Ball will be here in March and we can talk about it a little bit more explicitly now.
Yeah, I asked Jessica to put this in and give you all the sheet, basically so that as we start into talking about budgets again, you'll have in mind what this is going to cost if it's something we decide to move forward with. The extra, what we discussed about, particularly with our chiefs, was to try to help with health insurance between if you retired at 60 and you can get on Medicare at 65 or 67 with Social Security. So that extra $400 or $500 a month helps pay for health insurance. And it is something that the state legislature is limited to public safety. So, that's not a line we've drawn. That's what the law permits. But I just wanted, basically, for my part, wanted everybody to be aware of the numbers we're talking about and whether it's something we can work into our budget or not.
Is that years of service? Is that across just any, as long as you were in emergency services for 25 years, or is that with Sweetwater Fire Department?
No, if you can be at a different department for 10 years, as long as it was in that role.
But they
But-
have to.
But if they come for their last 20 years here, you're only going to draw for that 20
20
years.
years.
You're not going to get it for the full 30 because you're not paying into that system over here.
So basically the years of service in public service count towards it, but not the calculation.
Yes.
Gotcha.
You only get the bump for being with, unless they came from another agency that also had adopted hazardous duty, in which case they would get it from both for all time served.
Crazy hypothetical question, but the reverse of that, if somebody was served somewhere else 15 years and then came here and only worked for us 5 or 10.
You gotta put your time in with the city, and really, guys, that's the only thing that's fair.
Okay.
I would
You know.
assume that if it's TCRS and they come and we didn't have it,
Yeah.
and they had it there, then I would assume they'll get paid for that time that they were there.
But
not for
that,
the
that
time.
would only apply, that timing or year situation that I gave would only, they would only reap the benefit if they came from another, position
I
that
think
had,
they-
that
I think they
had
would have
that.
to have it, yes, I think it. And again, guys, just for what we're looking at too for this, I mean, I think this is gonna really help us with employee retention.
You know, I think
You know,
it's.
you get close, you don't wanna go somewhere else when you've got
Yeah.
4 or 5 more
We
years
both-
here.
Yeah, we both got young guys, and we wanna try to keep them the whole time, and if they know they're gonna get that much more money on the back end,
Sure.
you know, they're liable to, maybe we'll hang on longer to get it.
Okay.
Because regardless of what anybody says, him and myself, we don't have people knocking the door down for these jobs anymore. And it's, and other places do offer better, and we have them leaving. You know, so we got to try to start coming up with something. Plus, I mean, our jobs are mentally and physically straining, you know, and they stay 30 years, we owe them something.
Sure. But it's a benefit to the employee, but it's also a benefit to our city to try to build that longevity.
You know, absolutely, because you're not having to train somebody and pay all that money out, you know, over and over and over.
I think it's a very smart investment for the purpose.
But like Jessica said, we've looked at all the different things. At this point, it seems like the option 3, the having to do student pay, would fit what we need at this point best. And it also is pretty attainable at $250,005.
Any other discussion? Thank you for the information. So now it's time to review the CI capital improvement plan, which should list items needed that are more than $5,000 in value. This is a planning document. It does not commit the funding or add the project to the budget, but it does help us plan for the next 5 years. So Jessica, if you want to review the changes from the last draft, and I'll open the floor for discussion from the board.
So, I've met with each department head about if there's something that they wanted in here. It's already been added. And just particularly for Branham, who has probably asked for a copy of the capital improvement plan every year for 10 years, long before he was a commissioner, he was asking for copies. He's got a good long history with it. But for Commissioner Martin also, we're no longer required by state law to do a capital improvement plan. They don't require us to submit it with the budget, but it sure does help. If we're looking 5 years out and deciding what should we buy that's more than $5,000. The other way I use this document is if a grant opportunity comes up and we can show that we have already been planning on it, like it's been in our capital improvement plan for 3 years and we haven't gotten funding for it yet, or we've been planning on this for 3 years and we still don't have funding for it. That really does help us make an argument in those grant narratives and those grant applications. So some of the things on here are a wish list. Some of the things on here we put on here knowing we might not ever get them, but we want them on there anyway. In the fire department, there's equipment there. The fire home maintenance, we know, has been edging slowly up. The older your building gets, the more that happens. We do have the the truck that we have already approved for purchase, posted out to 2030. That's the one that we are already, committed to purchasing. And then we do know we're going to have to put a roof on fire hall number 2 at some point. So we put that as far out as we possibly could. Police, the main change in that is we are going to have to include 2 SRO vehicles this next year with the acquisition of Sweetwater High School. We'll have to give 2 vehicles. We've only budgeted $35,000 for that because we're planning on getting probably a little higher mileage, smaller vehicles than what our patrol vehicles are, because obviously SROs are not having to put the mileage on those that patrol vehicles are. So that's the main change in the police department. Also, instead of, I think you remember last year we talked about an entry team. That money is going to be reallocated to equipment. The entry team thing we didn't end up really needing the funding that we thought we were gonna need for that. So they still did some of that training, but the equipment purchases were not as necessary. Also, we are going to come up with a plan of how to fix the bathrooms on the second floor, and that may be using in-house forces for our building maintenance guy. He's done an amazing job. If y'all wanna go down to the city garage and see their new bathroom, it's much nicer than any of the bathrooms we have here at City Hall. So it's the best bathroom in town down at the garage, if y'all wanna go see it. But they just did that in-house, using their own budget, so they did a great job on that. So we think we can utilize them to do that second floor bathroom. It does not have to be ADA compliant on the second floor because we already have one on the first floor that meets everything. And that second floor is not open to the public. It's only for our officers and our employees. Let's see, we did upgrade the body cams, which we talked about that in a previous meeting. So there's a higher price tag with that. I cannot say enough, given the last 6 weeks in Sweetwater, how much those body cams have meant and how important it is that we have good technology on these officers wearing them all the time. Parks and Recreation, the primary changes in that, we moved forward a couple of things like the pool improvements, rolls forward, we'll be spending part of that out of next year's budget because that grant goes all the way through December 31st. Eddie has requested a 1-ton used dump truck, so that's budgeted for next year, $25,000. It's not, sorry, I said budgeted. It's included in the CIP. It's not actually budgeted yet. And then landscaping stays the same. Mowers and a small tractor. I think tractor is old. So mowers and equipment, $30,000 for next year. And then I think that's pretty much it in Parks and Recreation.
That was the resurfacing of the track, is that not part of the grant?
It is part of the grant. Is that on there too?
Well, yes, that's grant.
Yeah,
It says
resurfacing
grant
walking
budget.
track. That's probably that may end up, Sam may remember this better than I do. I can't remember if that has to be in the LPRF scope or if that's part of the CDBG.
It's in the LPRF scope.
So I probably do need to move that back a year. Thanks for asking about that, Brandon. I put it 2 years out. I probably have to put it in this year. Oh well, okay, I'll fix that. 35 goes into that year. Moving down to street department. David has asked that we consider replacing the backhoe. He's gotten some pricing on trading in the last one we bought 8 or 9 years ago. We've had a lot of maintenance issues with it. I think it's a John Deere backhoe. We've had it in the shop multiple times. If he trades that one in, he can get a new backhoe for around 105, so that's what we budgeted there. And then $12,000 to build a new salt bin and $18,000 to demolish and rebuild one of the new sheds that houses the equipment. The other day when I was at the garage, David put his big shoe against the pole that holds up the shed, and the whole pole just moved out because it's rotted at the bottom and it doesn't actually attach to the ground anymore. So we feel like that one might be something that needs to be fixed. The multimodal, the TAP, those are both shots in the dark. They're my best guess at what we would end up spending. And of course, we have offsetting revenue coming in for that. So the multimodal is a 95% reimbursement grant, and the TAP grant is an 80% reimbursement grant. And then the paving, I put, you'll see in your packet, there's a little bit more extensive information for the street department because they have State Street Aid also instead of just general fund. But you'll see there's a proposal from Harrison in your packet. This is to pave Broad Street from Lenore Street to Patton. After going and looking through all the properties on the 10-year paving plan, which there's a copy of the 10-year paving plan in your packet too, I think. David's decided that he thinks that Broad Street from Lenore to Patton is in worse shape and probably needs to be resurfaced ahead of some of these other ones that were on there. So we moved some of the streets out that are in decent shape and replaced this upcoming year to do just the Broad Street project, because it's a pretty good section of Broad Street. That came in at $127,000. So we budgeted a total of $150,000 for next year. That means $127,000 for the Broad Street project, and then he'll also do some stuff with his hot box. So that's also just asphalt costs, not necessarily contract paving, but that's what that $150,000 is made up from. That's pretty much it for the street department. Planning, development, and tourism. John's got the easiest budget. We put the retail recruiting firm in there to continue that contract. We also put the Main Street program in there. So those are the two big things in planning, development, and tourism. We always keep property maintenance assessments in there so that if there's things that we need to demolish or make improvements in properties, we've got it in there. Tourism also falls under that department, so there's the stuff that comes out of the tourism fund is also included in there. So not everything in there is general fund budget, but that's what's in John's department. The general government is a lot. We had kind of said we wanted to kind of keep in mind we're putting back $250,000 a year towards that fire truck purchase. I've not actually set that up in a separate bank account or anything, but I did want you to visually see it on this capital improvement plan just to kind of hold a place marker for it. The Biggs home has been put in there because we did get that $98,000 Tennessee Tourism Enhancement Grant. We will actually finish the engineering and design on it by June of this year, so that grant didn't go on the CIP, but the $98,000 Tourism Enhancement Grant did. I put the community center in there, taking an absolute shot in the dark about what it would be over the next 3 years. Obviously, that timing can change depending on whether we decide to do one phase or all of it at once. The I-75 infrastructure is the commitment that we've made for the road improvements for the industrial park project, and that's 2 years out because I'm assuming they haven't even gotten started building the first 2 buildings yet because they're still waiting on a TDEC permit, so I'm kind of guessing it'll be 2 years out. That's a shot in the dark also. We may end up having to pay that earlier or later than what that's shown in the capital plan, but I wanted to have it in there somewhere. I think those are the big things. Those are the changes that have been made since the last time you all saw this document. We do not have to pass this tonight. I would like for us to pass it by the April meeting because that's when you'll be getting the first draft of the real budget. So if we can look at this again in the March workshop and then pass it in the April meeting, that would be the goal. So any changes that need to be made before then are great. And then I think the mayor said she was going to open the floor for anybody that wants to talk through any of the things that we haven't already talked about.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Under general government, the I-75 infrastructure line, is that something different from the access road? It's the same amount?
Yes, but it is the exact same amount, isn't it? That's curious. That makes me worried that I've just got a typo in there, Jim. I will double check those amounts. I do think the I-75 infrastructure total amount is around $771,000.
Yes.
We've never actually gotten a quote or a bid on the access road. I don't know if we even still want to do that. So you all can tell me if you want to leave that on there or not. We put that in there before Red Stag was there. So I don't know if it's something that's still a good idea to have there, that maybe we build an access road out through there at some point. Technically, Red Stag kind of already built half of one, so I don't know. I do feel like the I-75 infrastructure amount is pretty close to being right.
Yeah.
The access road amount, I mean, that was just a shot in the dark anyway. So.
But that's up at the Red Stag Inn.
We had talked originally about putting that to connect Oakland Road to Monroe Street. No. Yeah, Oakland Road to Monroe Street. Years and years ago. This is kind of what the thought process was. Now that Red Stag's there, I don't know that that's a possibility or a desire. And maybe we look at the other side of the interstate. Maybe the access road goes where Murray's Chapel is instead. Obviously, for commercial development, an access road is always nice because you have all kinds of hotels and restaurants and stuff pop up along an access road, but that's kind of one of those wish list items that's still on there. And keep in mind, on that I-75 infrastructure, part of that will come out of the ECD fund that we have about $150,000 set back in. So,
Is the school capital projects, is that a gym at the junior high, is that 40,000? Is that what that is? Or?
it is. When they borrowed the money to build the gym, the city committed to paying $40,000 towards that debt. So that's what that is. Anyone else?
Just to plant a bug, we have a exploratory committee meeting coming up hopefully the 1st of March for trying to acquire or find additional Parks and Rec property that we would like for the city to entertain purchasing. And that's trying to buy property, but it's not cheap. And we're going to need a pretty good parcel, so just to kind of keep that in everybody's just think about it if you know of anywhere that might suit what we're looking to do with it. Biggest thing is getting it acquired know, complete Parks and Rec new complex probably wouldn't be done until after I'm long gone, but if property's gone, it's gone. And we just don't want to get landlocked and not have anything available. So we're going to be looking into those options and hopefully, maybe even by the March workshop, bring something back and let the board know.
I do have land acquisition for Parks and Rec under general government. I put it 2 years out and put 2.5 million, but that, again, that's me making up numbers. So if y'all have some kind of better idea or want me to change that, we can.
Anyone else?
I did forget one thing. Underneath that, the parking lot on Oak and Miller Street. We talked about this last summer when we bought it, and we said we were gonna have maybe the street department maybe possibly repave it, do maybe landscaping islands or something in it to make it look a little prettier, put some trees there or something. So I put $15,000 in for that. I doubt that will repave it. I don't know, maybe it will.
Thought we talked about
David
just
says no.
rocking it and leaving it apart.
And then we kind of said we could just gravel it and put some trees around it or something. So, I mean, whatever y'all think with that. It's worked great at the library to have that gravel parking lot, so.
Yeah. We can make it work just as good, but no, pavement for 15,000.
Can we buy gravel for 15,000 for it? Okay, good. There you go.
We can use a lot of dirt to start with. I mean, there's a big hole there if you look at that parking lot.
So thankful that we have some talented people in all of our departments. Okay, so anyone else with the capital improvement plan? Okay, so as you know, we're organizing a farm to table type fundraiser dinner in downtown Depot on April 24th. We have had a great response on sponsorships already, just in monetary sponsorships, almost $10,000. That does not go into everything else that has been donated. And it does not include ticket sales, which will all go toward the nonprofits. But anyway, so SMPOA agreed to host the event. They've applied for the insurance for the event liability and the liquor liability. We've included in your packet an updated application, which is in the agenda, on the agenda for the beer board meeting in March. And we'll also submit a special occasions permit to the ABC, the Tennessee ABC, for serving liquor. We do have 2 bartenders, the ABC certified bartenders too. We will check IDs for insurance regulations at the door or at the table. We also give them a wristband. We also put this on the Main Streets Board agenda in February that was included with the minutes, and that's in your packet for approval. We will, any alcoholic beverages will stop the sales an hour before, let's just say at 8 o'clock, saying that everything should be finished by 9. So does anyone have any further questions about this event or the permits?
So this is still just beer and wine?
Yes.
Confused me a little bit there. I heard liquor in there somewhere.
The state considers wine liquor, so that's why we have to get the state
Okay.
ABC permit, go through all those things. If you serve wine, you have to do all that.
Any questions? I'm hoping it's going to be a great event for our community. So anyway, any other questions, concerns, comments?
What was the other board that it had to pass that we talked about?
Main Street.
Main Street and all.
They did every meeting and the minutes are in the back.
Okay, so in the March agenda, we have the minutes distributions, and we have a lease to renew the Board of Education. John has drafted that copy, and it's in your packets. We have the parks rules and memorial tree policy already discussed and for action, and finished as the beer board for the hog ball for next meeting. Is there any other items for the March agenda? Okay, moving forward. Gentlemen and ladies, I'd like to ask each department to give a report, so let's start with ladies first. I always start at the front first, Miss Tanya, so.
Things are going well with the library.
Good. Good. David,
Well, we've been patching a lot of potholes lately. It's warm weather. We probably put down 35 tons of hot mix the last 2 weeks. We won't be able to do any this week because of the weather. That and, you know, our just everyday stuff, picking up demolition and brush and cleaning up trash on the side of the road. We did make a new hire. He's supposed to start tomorrow. Looking forward to that. I think he'll be a real good addition. He seems like one of us already, so, I mean, just, I guess, as they say, business as usual.
sounds great. Eddie Thompson?
About the same with us. All our sports are kicking off at football, and they started this week. We're ready, thank goodness. We weathered the cold weather today and put the last conditioner on, so we got softball, baseball, soccer, everybody's kicking off, getting started. And we got the pool project going on. So I've been kind of eyeballing them boys.
If anything comes up with that, Eddie, just give us all. We'll be doing at least once, if not twice a month, progress meetings.
Yeah.
So once we get those set, we'll let you know what dates those are.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Maybe I get some kind of scope of work.
Yeah, I'll get you a set of plans
If you give me that, so.
and schedule.
That way I can kind of see what's going on.
Absolutely.
The guys there now says they're the demo crew.
Gotcha.
And when I speak Spanish to them, they get scared. So, but you know how that is. But they're not used to communicating with anybody. They got one guy, you know. But they're moving on. They've already stripped the sides and all the sides. So, but I was just thinking if I kind of knew what they're expected to do, I'd kind of keep an eye on what's going on.
Okay, will do.
So,
Thank you.
other than that, everything's good.
You also
Oh, and I
have
got a
your
new guy. About to get. I got a new guy starting tomorrow, and he's filling Randy's spot when it left a while back, and we chose to wait till spring. So we're ready to get him on board and get him feet wet.
Okay, so all of our spots are filled
Yeah.
in
Right
the streets
now.
and parks. Okay, great. Jono,
Which one, me?
you. I'm
I'm
going the opposite of what I go.
Everything's going well, the planning department, springtime, so things are starting to pick back up as far as building permits. It's getting warmer, although it's not warmer today. But, just to kind of update you all on something Jessica touched on, just got an email yesterday that TDEC has given their final approval on the I-75 Commerce Park, Industrial Park out there that Hollingsworth is doing. So they've gotten TDEC approval on their stormwater permitting as well as their ARAP, which is the permit that lets them work around or cross over the stream. There was some additional area there that was designated as wetlands that they had to navigate, so they've gotten approval on all that. They sent two buildings, the first two buildings submitted their plans for those two buildings, so we're in plans review right now for those. So they're gonna hit the ground running. They're ready to, get them built. So I guess I said within the first 2 years, they should have those those two complete. Of course, they still got a road to build in there. We understand that, but they'll move forward quickly. They're already chomping at the bit, so that's good news. Monday night, a week ago tonight, the Planning Commission did approve a subdivision request for the property just across Pleasant Grove Road, that stretch where the helipad is, at 21.5 acres. It's already, it's in our city. The first lot there, as you turn off onto Pleasant Road, is about 12.5 acres. Is proposed for a fuel stop. We don't have a name yet for which one, but basically a truck stop, hopefully with a nice food option attached to it to serve those trucks and things like that coming on and off the interstate to get in that industrial park. So that has been approved. That first lot is really the only usable lot that will be developed. Beyond it is that section of wetlands. Lot 2 is just wetlands. They just designated it as such. They said that nothing's in stone, but talked about maybe even if the city would like that area or that lot, that they would maybe donate that to the city for walking trails or whatever. So the third lot has the helipad on it and it will stay the helipad. There's a current lease for that property anyway. And then the fourth lot is just a small 1 acre lot at the end that would just be for signage. So billboard, most likely, pointing to the industrial park. So that's good news there as well, as far as development goes. Planning Commission also approved, contingent upon TDEC's approval of their stormwater plan, a site plan for First Baptist Church, the old Rex Ball property, 51 acres. They're going to phase it out in 5 phases. The first phase would be coming in off of Monroe Street to build a couple of ball fields, a soccer field, and some courts there, maybe pickleball courts and a small outdoor pavilion. And then phase 2 would include building one of the actual buildings, so a Family Life Center. One of the things that the Planning Commission requested was in phase 2 to complete the drive, the internal drive, to connect to Highway 68 to give them a second means of egress and ingress. So it's not just one way in and out off Monroe Street. And they have that planned all along. But the Planning Commission wanted them to do that sooner in the process, rather than waiting till the end of phase 5. Go ahead and connect in phase 2. So you've got a building there, people are coming and going. There's 2 ways in and out of that thing, and so they were fine with that. The engineer said he would make those changes, so that's good news as well. And then the last thing doesn't have anything to do with you guys as far as a vote, but I did bring this up to the Planning Commission. There is a bill right now in the legislature, House Bill 1720. It's also one that Cochran is attached to, but it's in reference to urban growth boundaries and planning regions. So right now, our city limits, our municipal borders, that's where we can enforce our zoning regulations, our zoning rules, land use, and things like that. The only thing that we can enforce outside of our borders are our subdivision regulations, how people subdivide property. And that can go as far as 5 miles outside of our border. So there's a bill going through the legislature now that would seek to potentially do away with those planning regions, urban growth boundaries. It doesn't say you have to. It just allows counties the option to draft a resolution and adopt a resolution to do away with those. So if this bill passes, it doesn't necessarily mean that we lose our urban growth boundary or our planning region. It just means our county legislators have that option to adopt a resolution to do away with those. And the argument is, I think Mr. Cochran had explained to Jessica, at least his support of this bill is because people that are living outside of our municipality are affected by people making those decisions within our municipality. So those people don't have, if you live out in the county, the people making the decisions that affect your property, they live in the city, not in the county. So the representation is not there. That's their argument for it. I don't know if it'll pass. It's come up in the past. It's not the first time that this has come up, but it seems to be gaining a little more steam and a little more, I guess, support, probably because so many people are moving into our area and so many people are now selling off properties and things like that. So how they get used.
TML's opposing it, they said. Have you seen
I've not heard one way or the other, but it seems to be moving through pretty quickly. So, it may have a chance to actually pass, and, you know, this is one that I see good and bad in it, you know. It's good that we have some say over how properties are subdivided outside of our city limits, but if you get somebody that lives way out on the outskirts, you know, nearly to Madisonville or Bonwood, if they fall within our boundaries, they still have to divide according to our rules, but, you know, they're nowhere near us, so I see both sides. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to, you know, if somebody subdivides property just beyond our borders and then request annexation, but they didn't divide according to our regulations. That doesn't mean we have to annex them. I'm not saying we have to do that. So,
Or
that's,
provide utility service, which
that's
for
correct.
us would be a big deal.
That's correct. Now, yeah. So that's the trade-off. If we don't have that planning region and they divide property that doesn't match our guidelines, we don't have to take them in. That's all I've got.
Okay. Chief Byron?
I tell you, it's been a while, it seems. You know, you hear all these story tales that we get to, you know, that kind of reminds me a little bit about the thing as a kid we heard, you know, about the taxation without representation and, you know, the Tea Party, all that little gathering that they had over it. And then this thing about the House bills and the state bills. I'm telling you, I've never kept up with them as much as we have lately. And you remember the little jingle. Do you know it, John? I'm sure Jessica does. Nothing but a bill on Capitol Hill. You know, I'm just a bill. Yeah. But all this stuff going on like this. Just wanted to touch on another one, and Laurel Russell's kind of heading this one up, and it's a very positive one, I think. You know, there's the THC, and then you've got the vapes, which we seem to be a magnet for vape shops for some reason right now. But there's a product they sell in them that Laurel's trying to head up and get illegal in Tennessee. It's Cradle, and it's we're having a lot of our younger folks are getting a hold of it. You know, like their parents may go there and the kids get it and stuff like that. It's proven to be very dangerous to them, and it's kind of a psychotic. If you were comparing it to anything you've heard about in the past, it's kind of like acid. You know, it kind of makes you hallucinate. Instead of, you know, weed makes you sleepy and hungry. You know, this kind of makes you hallucinate a little bit more, and that is something he's focusing on. Another thing that's changed in the last 6 months is now we're seeing that ABC is having more hands-on with the investigations of the vape shops, because they were kind of left there at one time. They were under the health field and you know, being inspected in that way, and now they've got more trained investigators out, you know, investigating them. We've got a liquor store in town, and that's what I'd ask to make sure it's okay to speak about, that it's under a month suspension for selling underage. It's out by the interstate down in the hole where the Huddle House used to be, sold to an underage out there. It was their second offense. They got cited, and as you guys know, you know, I found out the hard way years ago that we can't enforce, the city government can't enforce liquor store laws. You know, I was sending in doing compliance checks, and I got smacked around for that. So what they do is we've got a great rapport with the ones doing it now. So if we get word at it, we call them and they come and they're very, it seemed to work. I mean, they took action out there. We don't want to see a lot of loss of revenue, but we also don't want to sell them to, you know, people that they shouldn't underage out there. On a positive, we start our Citizens Police Academy. We start it March the 17th. It's going to be on Tuesday nights. If you know anybody that would be willing to want to attend, it'll be a couple hours. A 10-week program doesn't make you a police officer, just kind of lets you in the back door and see what's going on with all the scenes like that. And of course, you'll get a legal section with Commissioner Stutz, and he'll get you in there and he'll tell you all the laws in 2 hours that you ever need to know.
Where will this be? Here?
It'll either be here, it depends on our class size. If we have a large class, it'll be in here. If we have a not too large class, it'll be inside the training room at the PD.
Okay, how do they sign up for that?
They come get an application from Vanessa.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got them over there. We've had a few coming in here and there.
Probably a stupid question here. Is the age of, I mean, is the age of, what age group are you looking at?
I'm glad you asked that. Commissioner. This here is basically 18 and above. Okay. 18 and above.
So you're old enough.
Yeah, this is 18 and above. But the commissioner's got something he's spearheaded, and we're gonna run a pilot and try it. We've already got with another agency, and got some paperwork from them. We're doing a youth camp this summer, and we're gonna try it for 3 half days to start out with. That way we don't have to provide them all day, and just kind of like a junior police camp. Commissioner saw that this was very effective in the Memphis area, and he brought that to me a few years ago, and I'm just now getting around to it. We'll get that thing started off. I look for that to be a big hit, especially after this year. You get your first one in, and you get everything worked out, and you try to figure out what to do, and we'll go from there.
So you would call that Citizens Police Academy?
Citizens Police Academy, yes. We, no charge, no charge for it. If there is an expenses like t-shirts, stuff like that, we take it out of the drug fund and help with that. We do still have one opening. Chris Corona left for the THP, and we still have that opening for a full-time. We're looking for certified because, obvious reasons, we don't want to hire somebody sent to the academy. We've still got Adam Dow. He's still out with his unit, and he will hopefully be back by the end of March, 1st of April. Is that kind of what you're hearing, Mayor?
Yes.
That last time I spoke with him, be glad to get him back. Glad he's able to represent his country and serve, but we sure need him too. He's a vital part of the department. I'll be interviewing a couple of folks later this week to try to get that spot filled. If you see new faces in town, we are putting on, and due to the policy changes, we don't have to bring auxiliary or like he's got reserves in. We don't bring them in. We'll be putting on 5 reserves this week, auxiliary officers, and it's a non-paid status job to get you started in, and then you'll work like special events and stuff like that. Going to be full. You'll be familiar with them. It's going to be Trent Wattenberger's one of them, Zach Neal, Brody Dugan, Jared Wilkins, and Stephen Truman. And we'll be bringing those guys on. A couple of them will be full-time. 3 of them just want to be on to be able to kind of exactly what one of them told me, give back to his community. He said he'd been able to come through the community, and it was Trent. He said he'd been able to come through the community, and he's just glad to be able to get back to it and serve in that capacity. Touch up while I've got your attention to bathrooms. Man, these guys is gonna have it made. Can we get a heated seat, you think?
Get a bidet.
Hey, if you're out and about, don't pass up the garage. Go to the garage if you get that urge. I'm telling you, it's nice. But that's something that we do. We've had it in our budget for a couple of years. You guys were nice enough, ladies, to roll it over for us this year. And we're going to be able to spend it because I've met with Richard and David once, and they're going to come up and look at some laws and some options we've got. And it's just to mirror what the mayor said. It's great to have people that's able to do stuff and want to do it. There's a difference in somebody not wanting to do it.
Like John Anderson. John?
Everything's going good. Fire department, like these guys are talking about these bills. I never have really been interested in that stuff. A friend of mine's a representative of a different part of the state. Anytime he sees anything that's looks like it's gonna affect our little town, he'll send me a message or call me. And there's a lot of things right now that's floating around over there that's gonna affect the city. It's been pretty interesting. Everything that the fire department's working on grants. We got 2 or 3 grants that we're working on. All of them are zero match, so that's great. Don't know whether we get them. They're like Jessica was talking about the broadband. They're grants that we've never done before. I happened to stumble upon them and figured we'd go for it and see what happens. Doing our training. Matter of fact, the girls from City Hall, Jessica, Sonia, Haley, thank y'all for coming. Got to sit the CPR class. We had one of our guys trying to get his instructor license and had to be watched by the CPR people, and they were nice enough to step up and take a very boring class. But
That John didn't tell us was 4.5 hours.
No, that was the bad part. That was my first CPR class. I enjoyed it. I don't guess I expected that. I know, my hands were sore. It was hard. If y'all never taken one.
we go out to the schools and we do CPR pretty much all spring at the high school for their health classes, and we needed more instructors, so that was, that process, we had a,
Bring up her mock thing,
what?
the mock grade for prom.
Oh, yeah, gonna have, other than that, our training, doing our normal training stuff, there is gonna be a mock rec at the high school like we've done in the past. In March, it's the best I can do for you.
You said March
19th.
19th, I think.
It's the 19th.
I wrote it on the
Yeah,
calendar
it's
at the
19th.
fire hall, but I don't.
We'll make sure the whole board was aware of
Everybody
that.
aware of it, because in the past,
Just from our rec.
we do get phone calls from rather upset parents. So just expect that, but that's the purpose of it, is to scare some kids, and that's what we wanna do. The way they're doing it probably won't be bad, the way we're gonna do it. It's not like it's been in the past where all the kids come flying in school and there's a wreck right in the middle of the road and then we get blowed up by phone calls. We're not doing that this time, so, but that is coming.
Sonia did say she wanted to volunteer to be part of that, perform CPR, so
I need to
we'll
practice.
just grab her.
But other than that, fun times, regular calls, crazy.
Certainly appreciate y'all. You just have no idea. Anybody else? Does anyone have any comments, concerns, complaints? You do see Jessica. So before she loses her voice altogether, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you so much.